Euthanasia is being offered as a form of compassion, an act of mercy. But is it really? We'll talk about that and more in this edition of Life Matters with Brian Johnston. Brian Johnston has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives. As the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. Right now, I'm interviewing an old friend from Canada. Alex Schadenberg is the director of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, and there's many things happening in Canada we've talked about in the past. But we're going to talk about California today, and more importantly, how we stopped a bill in California, and the fact is, we didn't. And many people don't understand that. Alex was involved. He was early on to see it, but all of you who follow California pro-life know we've been talking about this bill now for the last month and a half since it was introduced. And the fact is that it's now stopped its progress. And there's many people celebrating, but they don't know why it was stopped. And it's actually very scary when you understand what this bill was, but more importantly, why they decided to stop it, because it wasn't pro-life efforts that stopped this. And many people are patting themselves on the back unwisely. So, Alex, good to have you. Thank you for being on again.
Thank you, Brian.
And Alex is busy because the issues in Canada are nonstop. But I wanted to talk with Alex because he is one of the preeminent leaders worldwide in stopping medical killing. And really what we're looking at, those of you who have studied what really happened in Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, it authorized medical killing in the United States. It threw out the Hippocratic Oath. And without that guiding laws, vulnerable people, without the Hippocratic Oath, they're at great, great risk. And they're being killed right now. And they are being killed in California and, of course, in Canada and, as you know, many places in the world. Alex is a leader in that. And Alex, let's talk briefly about SB 1196 and why it was significant.
Well, SB 1196 was significant for several reasons because it really would have changed the whole issue. I didn't actually refer to it as an assisted suicide expansion bill because it actually revolutionized the whole issue because it would have allowed it to be done not in the typical way that's happening in the U.S. I'm not saying there's not abuse going on of the assisted suicide laws, but right now, people have to technically self-administer the drug or the poison, as I call it. So that means that the doctor, or in some states that nurses are allowed to be involved, would be involved with prescribing this lethal poison cocktail, and the person has to self-administer. They have to take it themselves. So they sell that as both freedom, choice, and autonomy, which, of course, that's a lie. It's not about freedom, choice, and autonomy. It is about abandonment, though. This bill would have allowed the doctors to do it by IV. Now, why is that so significant? Because Canada has legal euthanasia, meaning the doctor or the nurse is directly killing the person, and the person does not have to self-administer. The doctor or nurse actually does the act. So it's a little bit different. The intention's the same, the outcome's the same, but you can see it's a little bit different. The California bill changed it to allow this by IV, so it would have made it indistinguishable from Canada's euthanasia law. That's what it would have done. The other thing it did is it removed that terminal illness definition, which isn't much of a definition anyway. It says you have to have a 6-month prognosis, and we all know, really, what is a 6-month prognosis? How do you determine a 6-month prognosis? And we could have a whole show on that alone. But this said that you had to have an irremediable medical condition, which is the same as the Canadian definition. So what that means is people with chronic conditions, people who are not terminally ill at all, could then be approved to die by these lethal poisons. So you're seeing it was changing the law radically. There was a few other things it did too, but those were, I would say, the two biggest parts of the bill that were causing this radical revolutionary change in California assisted suicide, if that were to have been passed.
Well, very good. And there's so many things we could talk about there, but really specifically, just so you understand as a listener, it changed. There was no need for a terminal condition in the law. Right. That's removed from the law. It allows people with dementia. It allows killing someone with dementia. And of course, they're asserting oh, this person has dementia and they want to be killed. Well, wait a second. You're killing people that are not of sound mind, and you're saying, well, they asked for it. There's something wrong in this argument. Could they be talked into it? We know that they can't. We know they have. I want to make a qualifying statement, Alex. As you know, my background is in language, and you and I have joked quite a bit about the English language and how the Canadians and the Americans have abused the King's English. But the fact is that really assisted suicide is, in essence, voluntary euthanasia. And people unwittingly want to make the distinctions that the death lobby makes. Oh, this isn't euthanasia because these people are volunteering. Dr. Viktor Frankl, who is really one of the best psychiatrists that's known, and he passed away several years ago, but Dr. Viktor Frankl, a brilliant man, pointed out that at the death camps where he was, everyone at the death camps knew that they were being worked to death. And if they went when they got sick, and you get sick when you're worked every day, if they went to the infirmary, they all knew the only way out of the infirmary is through the smokestack. And he was involved, and they would get together at night and tell each other, have purpose. Don't despair. If you go to the infirmary, you won't come back. And what he was saying is that many people, this may sound bizarre, but it's not me. Many people in the death camp, according to Dr. Viktor Frankl, voluntarily walked to their death because they were in despair. And what we're dealing with now is the medical profession. If you work in a nursing home, I have. If you tour these nursing homes, I have. Many people in these nursing homes are in despair and lonely, and they get drugs. They don't get a lot of other human interaction or hope. And if you're despairing and told that medicine can take care of that despair, it'll be painless. So really, I think we need to understand, in terms of the English language, the artificial distinction. Euthanasia literally is a borrowing from the Greek. It means good death, or a death for good reasons, supposedly. But assisted suicide is essentially voluntary euthanasia. They're not dying. And again, use your language carefully. These people aren't dying. They are being killed. This is a transitive verb. Please use your language carefully. In Canada, they call it medical aid in dying. We're just helping. No, they're not dying. They are being killed. The English language says you have twisted it for intellectually dishonest purposes if you call this just dying. When you cause a death, it's a transitive verb. You are killing. You must make this distinction because the language has seduced and put people to sleep. They are like frogs in water that's getting hotter and hotter, and they don't understand. And so let's talk about the defeat now of SB 1196, because it was not defeated by pro-lifers.
So I just want to make the comment, Brian, that I'm opposed to killing people. And that is the primary reason why I'm opposed to these laws, because these laws are about killing people. And that's where I'm absolutely opposed. And they give doctors the right of law to kill people. That's what these laws do. So we'll get back to this issue again. What happened with this bill is that a lot of people are saying, hey, we did this and that. And actually, I'm not going to discourage anybody. It's good that people reacted to SB 1196 and they spoke out against it and they talked to their legislators. They did all that. But it was actually the assisted suicide, the death lobby, that killed the bill. And the reason they gave, you could see it in the Compassionate Choices letter. You could see it in the comments being made by the pro-death legislators who you would think would normally support such a bill. They felt that bill went very fast. It was going too far, too quick, is what they were arguing. And because there's the 2 points that the death lobby is working on. One is they're trying to legalize killing in more states. So such as right now, there's a big battle going on in quite a few states that have bills. And they knew that it would be harder to pass a bill in any of these other states that haven't legalized it yet if they were to pass SB 1196. So that was the first thing. The second thing is they support all those things that are in SB 1196, but they were saying it's moving too quickly. So it would scare other people away from supporting their initiatives for killing. So it was too fast, too quick is what they were arguing. So that means, they didn't actually kill it. What it was all part of the death lobby's goal of legalizing and expanding this slowly. As a frog is in cold water, when you turn on the heat, the frog doesn't know when to jump out. And that's what they're trying to accomplish in the U.S. They want it to be legal everywhere.
That's exactly right. When we come back, we're going to talk about that.
Life Matters continues after this.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, and I was very excited when I heard about LifeFest Film Festival. LifeFest is the film festival dedicated to showcasing films that affirm the intrinsic worth of innocent human life and the profound significance of each life. I know one of your prizes is the Capra Award, awarded to that production that best reflects Frank Capra's thematic ideal. One seemingly insignificant person can in fact change the whole world in which he or she lives. That one singular life ends up being of vital importance. I'm so glad to hear that you are cherishing that in this film festival and are committed to artfully and creatively protect the lives of those who can't possibly promote themselves. They are dependent on the love and goodwill of people like you to speak on their behalf. Well done.
Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to lifefilmfest.com. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Hey, welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on what it really is. So again, for listeners, understand, and in California, we have a very progressive legislature, as they do in Canada. Ours is one of the most progressive, but more to the point, they have a super majority. So these are people who ideologically believe, well, this is for pain. If somebody is asking, we should help them. These are people who are easily moved to dismiss another human life because they are ideologically not in agreement with the foundations of our founding, which is every human life has intrinsic value. That's the predicate for America's founding, and that the government doesn't give that to you. The government, however, must intervene to protect your life, and that's the predicate of America's founding. So what we have is we also have in this legislature the admission it would have sailed through. And Senator Eggman, whom I know, she's from the district just south of me, and I've dealt with her. She is the one in the legislature who had to rebuke Senator Blakespear, that's the author of SB 1196. And she said, we agree with you. Now, she's simply saying exactly what you just heard from Alex. They're alarmed if they get everything they want now, and it becomes public notice. People who are in vulnerable situations, if you're sending a relative to a nursing home, right now, you better be involved and you better be asking questions, because people are being killed in nursing homes right now, not necessarily under the same manner, but in a very subtle, sly manner, denial of treatment. And it's very, very serious if you're not paying attention. The water is very, very warm right now.
Let me just say, though, Brian, is that the important thing about SB 1196 is it was actually should be opening people's eyes to the direction of the death lobby. So instead of saying, wonderful, we won, which I'm happy that it's not passed and it's stopped. I'm happy. Nonetheless, I recognize that they identified clearly their next step of where they're going. And that should actually wake us up, rather than put us into a lull to say, oh, well, we defeated it once, we'll defeat it again. No. It wakes you up. This is where they're going. Like, be aware that and the other thing is they want what Canada has. That's the other thing. They want all out killing as it's happening in Canada. We're having now killing of people for poverty, killing of people based on homelessness, people having a hard time getting medical treatment. Euthanasia is the answer. Medical aid in dying is being approved for all these cases. Mental illness, we're talking about children, all these things. That's what they want in the U.S., but they were just saying, as I said before, they felt this bill went too fast for them and that it was going to have a repercussion in other states.
Yes, but more importantly, they felt it was going to pass. The legislature would have passed it. The governor, for those who don't know, has already announced that he's very much in favor of killing those who are vulnerable. He killed his own mother and brags about it. Governor Newsom was involved in killing his mother before it was even legal. And by that, he didn't have to deal with her anymore because he admits he did not get along with his mother. And that's the problem. The other thing this bill does, and Alex is well aware of this, is it would have allowed tourist suicide. So someone in an adjoining state could say to their dad in the nursing home, hey, Dad, let's take a trip to California because there's doctors there that know how to treat you. Come on, Dad, let's go. I've seen this in nursing homes. I'm sorry. So when they say that those with mild dementia can kill themselves, it's not them that are killing themselves.
That's right.
This is a transitive verb. And in both Doe v. Bolton, which is still in effect in America, Doe v. Bolton didn't say that women had their own choice. It says the opposite, and is part of Roe. It's doctors make the final decision. Doctors are the ones protected under choice. It's the doctor's choice whether or not they'll do the abortion. In euthanasia, it is up to the doctor to decide.
That's exactly correct.
It's the choice of the medical profession to kill, and the laws want to protect killing vulnerable people by doctors. That's what this whole debate is about. It's not about compassion. It's not about feelings. If you surrender to that, if you give in to their subtle language, we're aiding and dying. No, you are causing the death. That's a different verb in the English language. Please listen to your own language. It's about killing. Someone is going to end that life. An outside agent is going to end that life, and they will walk away with impunity. That's what all of these laws are about. Please use your own language, use the King's English. But the fact is, it's a wonderful language, and it's being used to manipulate those who won't think more deeply. You've got to be involved in this battle of ideas. Well, at this point, what we want to do, I want to make sure people know about the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. And so, Alex, please tell people where they can find out more about your work worldwide, but especially, I think, Canada. Few Americans understand how bad things are in Canada. And you are at the very cutting edge. So please tell people how they can find out more and what they can do by being involved with you.
Well, there's two organizations. We've got a EPC USA. You can find that online without a problem. And we also have Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, which is both Canadian and international. And I do go all over the world speaking about this. I think that a horrific reality of what happens when you open the door to uncontrolled killing, which is what's happening in Canada. And, you know, California is not very far behind us. But the fact of it is the Canadian stories of all of these people, like people with disabilities, people with autism being killed by euthanasia for, you know, whatever reason, once the doctor decides, these are the stories that should be waking people up. But as I said, as my final speaking note about SB 1196, that was the clarion call as to where things are going. It's time to wake up that is where things are headed. People say, oh, it's only for the few. Well, no, that was the starting point. In fact, it wasn't only for the few. It was about killing people. But now they want to kill a lot more. And you see it in SB 1196. You see it in Canada. You see it in this legislation that's being proposed all over the world. They're pushing for more killing. And we have to be concerned about that. So Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, you really should be getting our updates. So you should email me at info@epcc.ca. And .ca is Canada, not California. info@epcc.ca.
Yes, and Alex does a great job. I personally support EPC and EPCC. And the fact is that this battle is much more real than you may realize. It is on us now. You are in the fog of war, and you must cut through. The weapons being used against you are, in fact, language. You know what a law is? A law is just an idea that's enforced. And laws are just made of language. So you must take the time and think through what they're trying to sell to you. Think it through, and EPCC.ca is the website to go to, and you can participate. This is a worldwide battle. Many of you are waking up that the battles we're seeing in the United States the cultural and in many ways spiritual battles. They're worldwide. And you need to be involved and not just watching from a distance. There's an old saying, there's people who make things happen, there's people who watch things happen, and then there's people who say, what happened? Don't be of that latter group. In fact, you need to be in part of the first group. Make things happen. Make sure that the innocent, vulnerable are protected in your community. If you have relatives in nursing homes, study that. You've got documents that people can use to protect their loved ones.
Yes,
right,
we have
Alex?
the power of attorney documents that you can make medical decisions. We're not the only group that has that, but ours specifically do protect you in a clear way by not only you appointing someone to make decisions for you, but the language of these legal documents are essential in order to protect your life. We should do other shows about these specific issues like that in the future.
Thank you again, Alex, and thank you for your work you're doing.
Thank you.
You're listening to Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. I support this show, and I would like to offer you our biggest discounts for listening. So please go to our website, mypillow.com, and put in the promo code at the end of this message to get the biggest discounts. Again, thanks for listening, and God bless.
And that promo code is LIFE. All caps, L-I-F-E, LIFE. So go to MyPillow, put in the promo code LIFE, and you'll get some wonderful discounts because Mike Lindell believes in you and in Life Matters.
Do you have a car you aren't using anymore? You can donate your car or boat, mobile home, trailer, or motorcycle, even property, to the California Pro-Life Council and get the highest amount possible in a tax deduction. Our donation program doesn't just turn around and dump the car. Our volunteer team of experts gets the car in its best reasonable shape and then sells it at auction to the highest bidder. You get the best tax deduction, and California Pro-Life gets the highest amount that it can to assist us in reaching Californians for life.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Well, it was good to have Alex on again, and I hope that you all realize it's not up to individuals like Alex or myself to stop euthanasia. If you're not familiar with the very real threats that the medically vulnerable are now facing, you will not be prepared when your loved one or you yourself face that situation where you're dependent on the decisions of a medical professional. Because without the Hippocratic Oath, you are not safe. I would like to say I know doctors that are very nice people, but they do not follow the Hippocratic Oath. They think that's old-fashioned. And unfortunately, the ones I know, many of them aren't Christian or follow Christian virtues. They are basically utilitarian. And if you don't know what that means whatever it takes to get things done. And if they believe that there's no more that can be done for you, then it's perfectly all right. Without the Hippocratic Oath, it's perfectly all right to simply slow things down or stop your life so that we're done with you. You've used up your time of usefulness in their mind. I don't need to tell you there's many situations where people have gone into remission. Many situations, and some of you have heard them, and we've had interviews with folks that have come out of comas. The fact is, unless the Hippocratic Oath is seriously followed, your life and your loved ones' lives are in danger, and I can't be there, and Alex can't be there. You will have to be the one who defends the life of your loved one. So we want to prepare you for that. If you'd like, I can get you a copy of my first book that dealt with this issue. It was written in the 90s, but the issues are still the same. If you recall, Jack Kevorkian was making great headway in the 90s. And so we do have Jack Kevorkian talked about in the book, but there's chapters on how to prepare and understand why the emotionally vulnerable, people who are alone, are sick. It's very common to be vulnerable and depressed and despairing and easily talked into ending their life. So the other problem is manipulating suicide. This has happened. It's very easy to do if someone is inclined to do that, if that's part of the agenda and legalized, which it is. So the problem is, unless you're involved in advocating for that family member, you just might get a call. Well, your grandma passed away last night. And if you call and ask and look into how did it happen, oh, she went quietly. They don't have to tell you. You may not realize that in California, in Oregon, in Washington, where assisted suicide is legalized, that there's no failure to report penalty. So if a physician, they report to the state, oh yeah, we killed so-and-so. But if they forget to fill it out, there's no penalty for forgetting to fill out that form. So at this point in time, in your lifetime, this has happened, that killing a patient is part of the medical industry. I would like to call it a profession, but without that oath, it is not a profession. It's part of the medical industrial complex. There's billions through the insurance company, through what goes on in many hospitals. There's billions to be made. And sometimes if they want a bed, they'll just clear that bed. This is very serious, and you need to be prepared. So I tell you what, a lot of people have not prepared themselves, and I'll get you a copy of Death as a Salesman, What's Wrong with Assisted Suicide, for any pledge of $20 or more. And a lot of people don't like to use the internet, and I've been told that. They don't want to pledge or give money through the internet. They don't trust it. So what I recommend is go ahead and send a note to Life Matters, P.O. Box 935, Sacramento, California. That's Life Matters, Post Office Box 935, Sacramento, California, 95812. And tell us that you want a copy of Death as a Salesman, What's Wrong with Assisted Suicide. It's designed to equip you to understand what's really going on in this debate. Or if you just want to pledge, you can send in a pledge to Life Matters at P.O. Box 935, Sacramento, California, 95812. Those of you who listen by podcast, you know that. But if you're listening by radio, send it to Life Matters Radio, P.O. Box 935, Sacramento, California, 95812. So thank you again for listening. We're involved in a very important battle of ideas. Do engage with these ideas. Take the time to think them through. Don't let emotions be a substitute for ideas. Thank you for your willingness to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council.